Letter to my 17-year-old self. Dear Alan, I know that you're obsessed with the latest LP by the Beatles, released on June the 1st, 1967, 2 weeks after your 17th birthday, but I wanted to divert your attention for a moment. You'll have many more opportunities to listen to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, although I know the older generation is predicting that nobody will be listening to the Beatles beyond the end of the 60s. I'm sending you this letter a year before you stopped stacking shelves at Anthony Jackson's supermarket. You've heard that a company called Tesco is about to take them over, and you wonder if that company will be strong enough to survive. It doesn't matter much to you either way, because you're convinced that your band, the In-Betweens, is about to get a record contract and that you are on the cusp of a career in music. I don't want to disillusion you. There are already plenty of people trying to do that. I heard that somebody said that the prospect of you ending up as a rock star is as likely as you becoming Home Secretary. Do you remember going to Hull just over a decade ago, in 1955, with your mother and your sister? You stayed with Auntie Dolly and Uncle Les in East Hull and remarked on the incredible number of bomb sites in the city. The war had only been over for 10 years, and no city had been bombed more heavily than Hull, where an incredible 95% of houses had been damaged or destroyed. When you were there, your eldest cousin Malcolm was determined to go to sea as a trawlerman when he left school. Hull and Grimsby were the biggest fishing ports in the world. Can you remember Malcolm's sister, cousin Kath? She went on to marry a lad named Brady, whose brother Steve eventually became the leader of Hull City Council. I know that you can't really be bothered with politics, but you may develop an interest. Cousin Malcolm never went to sea, but thousands of Hull lads did, and too many never returned. During that visit, Uncle Les took us to Spurn Point, where we saw the trawlers coming in and out of the Humber estuary. There's only one trawler fishing out of Hull today, and that's an enormous factory ship called the Kirkella, which stays at sea for months on end. It lands its catch at Grimsby. I wouldn't be surprised if you were to develop a certain interest in what's happened to Hull. I know you like poetry, although I don't think you've read any Larkin yet. He described Hull as having its face half turned towards distance and silence and what lies beyond them. Another great poet associated with Hull, Andrew Motion, who was here after the collapse of the fishing industry in the 1970s, said it was a city at the end of one kind of life, waiting for another to begin. The waiting is over. Something magnificent is happening in Hull that you will be privileged to be a part of. After the terrible physical damage of the war and the economic carnage when its biggest industry disappeared, there is a real sense of renaissance on the Humber. This recovery is driven by two things that have yet to be invented, and one that you will have heard of, but probably not in the context of economic renewal. I'll spare you an explanation of renewable energy and digital systems, and just say something about why that word, culture, has done so much for Hull. The city has received almost £3 billion of inward investment since it won the race to be UK City of Culture 2017, 4 years ago. There are 40 new businesses in the city centre and 5,000 new jobs have been created already. We're less than halfway through the year, but already it's been a tremendous success. Between April and September alone, there will be 42 new commissions or premieres, 24 festivals, and 13 new exhibitions. This place is rocking. You may wonder why I'm telling you so much about Hull. In 30 years' time, at the 1997 general election, you'll begin to understand. I know that you've just refused to move to Watford with your newly married sister because it's too far north, but your attachment to West London may well eventually be usurped by an attachment to West Hull. I'm sending this letter through what you know as the GPO. Have you ever thought about becoming a postman? It should be with you in a couple of days. Eventually, communication will be instantaneous. It's a long way off, and you won't be very good with the new technology. Even 50 years from now, you'll still think an iPad is a piece of cotton wool used to bathe your eye. You are part of a fortunate generation. Life for you will be infinitely better than it was for your parents, and you'll end up in a part of the country that has also been through hard times, but for which, as that track on the first side of your Beatles album says, it's getting better all the time. Best wishes, Alan Johnson, aged 67.